Welcome back to another episode of Diet Culture Can Fork Off. Today I'm doing a Q&A episode for my Misfit group and also answering some of the questions that come up from my one-to-ones that I feel like would be great to talk about. We just finished week 1 of Misfit and we are into week 2. So this is where I like to do a lot of the questions that come up. And I'm going to do a podcast every week with the questions that do come up in the group and in the WhatsApp group. I'll be covering as much as I can here. There's so many amazing questions and conversations in the group. So I'm going to pick out a few each week to cover on this podcast for my clients that are in the group, but as well for everyone else listening, so you can get some tips and suggestions. So, this stuff is the stuff that comes up in real life on a day-to-day when you're trying to unfuck your relationship with food and your body. So let's dive straight into it. The first one came up was about high-fat proteins, and obviously everyone talks about lean proteins, and I talk about lean proteins within and making sure that you are getting lean proteins within your diet. However, the question came up saying, how about high-fat proteins? Things like salmon, ribeye steak, those meats that are like chicken thighs, those meats that are a little bit higher in fat, do they still class as a protein? Yes, they do absolutely still class as a protein. But what we need to be aware of is the amount. So ideally, about 3 times a week, you can have your high fat proteins. Now, oily fish like salmon is extremely good for you. It's going to contain your omega-3s. Now, if you're like me and I don't eat oily fish, or I don't eat a lot of it, I have a supplement instead. So my omega-3 fish oil with the DPA and EPA split, which I've talked about before on a previous podcast about supplements. If you want to go and listen to that one, I dive into it a bit more about which supplements you need and which ones don't bother wasting your money on. So the high proteins here, high protein fats. So if you say like 3 times a week, chicken thighs and stuff is okay for about 3 times a week. Salmon and those kind of fishes, I wouldn't have more than twice a week. Once a week is like the recommendation. Twice a week is the max for the recommendation. Now that's due to a number of things of what that fish contain, what that kind of fish contains as well. So that's the only reason why. The other half of the week or majority of the week, 4 to 3 days, I would make sure that was a lean protein instead. Now this is just going to help keep the balance. All fats are good. We need fat in our diet. It got a bad rep from diet culture, but we do need a mix of those fats in our diet. So meat fat is absolutely fine, but again, it's just with everything in balance and everything in moderation. Ribeye steak as well, I would only have at least once a week, probably once every 2 weeks. Think of it as more of a special occasion kind of meat on those ones. But that's the kind of stuff I'd think about. It's like if half of my week, majority of my week is from those lean proteins, then 3 times a week I can have more of those high fat proteins. However that looks for you. I eat chicken thighs, I find them tasty. They're easier to cook and things like that, but we do have chicken breast as well. So it's totally, this is how you get that protein in, and just being aware that fat is higher calorie source as well. So that's just to bear in mind. I don't like to go into the obsessive calorie tracking, but it's always good to be aware. So for every gram of protein or carbohydrates, there are 4 calories, but for every gram of fat you're looking at 9 calories per that gram. So that's the only reason why as well, is just to make sure that you're getting that balance, being aware of the calorie difference as well and the portion control depending on your goals, because obviously that's very goal dependent, depending if you're trying to lose body fat or increase it. But also, I don't want to get any obsessive behaviours here. So if you're concerned about anything, do just message me, because at the end of the day, it's I like to let you know if you'll be aware of the calories and be aware of the portions. But it's not to say don't eat that stuff. It's just being able to balance it throughout the week. That's all. Okay. like I said, I have chicken thighs and things like that, and I do like a steak every now and again, so we're all good. So moving on, like keeping on this food theme, another client asked about easy cooking ideas while in stress mode. So I always say, have your meal go-tos. Like, think about what are easy, quick meals that you can jump to when you're stressed and busy, that you know off the back of your hand and you don't really have to think about, and write them in a list. Okay, so when you are busy, when you are stressed, you're like, I know, I can do that. Pasta is always a good one for me. I love pasta in this weather because it's quite hot at the moment. I can stick together a salad pretty quickly, but you need to make sure you've got the ingredients at all, like as well. Like I always need like have canned tomatoes in and things like that because I know I can make something up pretty quick. Pepper's one of my favourite vegetables, so making sure I've got those in. But I also that doesn't make sense. I also make sure I've got like frozen peas in my like freezer as well, to make sure that I can always rustle up something if I need it, and like with core ingredients that I can use across the board with pretty much anything. So make it easy for yourself, okay? Think about what meals do you enjoy. Things like stir fries, salads, Mexican food is one of my favorites, like fajitas and things like that, again really quick. Maybe it's baked potatoes, anything like that you can think, okay, these are things that I can put together really quickly. I'll write them a list, maybe I'll stick it on the fridge, so when I am in that stress mood, I know I've got the ingredients, I don't have to think about it, I know I can do something, rustle up something really quickly. Pasta, I know I mentioned pasta before. Pesto pasta for me, if I got like, we always keep jars of pesto in, and then I just add in like my vegetables, pasta, and usually some chicken or something as well. But think about like that is again a super quick, easy meal. It's nutritious. Is it like, think even I was just trying to think, like Friday night, Alex got back from work. He usually does the cooking. He had a really tough day at work. He didn't feel up to it. I had it planned because he usually does the cooking, but I looked. We had some gnocchi. I had some tin tomatoes. I had some peppers, and had some. I think we can't remember. We had some kind of meat as well, and I just chucked it all together, like really quick, really simple. Added in some stock, like some herbs and stuff, and it was actually a really nice meal. So like, sometimes we can just chuck together something really quickly as long as we like already know, like, okay, I've got pasta, I've got tin tomatoes, I've got this. I can do this really quick. Like, doesn't need to be rocket science. It just needs to be nutritious. It doesn't mean like it doesn't need to be a 5-star restaurant meal. Just make it easy for yourself, make it nutritious for yourself. And honestly, some, like, because Alex said to me, you could get a takeaway. Like, I just can't cook, I can't think about it. You can either organise a takeaway, you can organise something to eat. And I was like, don't really fancy a takeaway. I really want something more nutritious, and that's what I did. So it didn't take me very long either, like 20 minutes. So doesn't need to be these massive creative meals. It can just be really simple things that you know that you can just chuck together. For me, like frying up peppers, reducing down like the tin tomatoes with use some stock, beef, bit of water, herbs. I think we had some tomato puree as well. So it's just like that's what I mean. It wasn't like this major inconvenience for me. It was just quick, bung it together and let it cook. Done. Okay, so easy when you're in stress mode. This last question is something obviously I talk about a lot, and it's, how do I manage to get rid of that judgmental voice that I sometimes hear when I see that other women take up space and live out loud and open? I condemn myself for feeling that in me, even though I don't really actively think so. And I know I talk about this a lot, body objectification theory, and I've just been researching some new tools actually to help with this. So I'm going to get things together to pop them into the hub to help with this body acceptance piece in a little bit more detail, because what we need to understand, that judgmental voice is a learned narrative. So the body objectification theory, or objectification theory, I think so. I always say body objectification theory, but it's just objectification theory. It was done in 1997 by Roberts and Fredrickson. They saw that in cultures where women were more sexualized, and that's predominantly Western cultures, where women were more sexualized, treated or spoken about like objects, basically, then those narratives became learned, and women learned to basically view themselves like self-surveillance, like they've got a camera on them, and not only does that camera turn on yourself, but it turns on to other women as well, and that's where that comparison comes from. So there's a lot that goes on here, because it does take up like brain capacity, and there's research to show that as well, that it does steal that away from you. So what we need to do is like it's a practice, like with anything. And like I said, I've got some tools that I'm going to be adding in to help with this, because they're very, very interesting. They're going to be very helpful for this kind of thing. So I'll briefly discuss them on this podcast. But first of all, it's about understanding, like you need to do the understanding of this, I guess, of this narrative first. And I know we talked about like naming the inner critic, and we've done a lot of work on that. But what we need to do as well is being able to, first of all, do a little reset, okay, when you are feeling this way, bringing yourself back into your body. So it's like a 10-second reset. Like I said, I'm going to build all of this out, so it's going to be in the hub for you to actually use as a tool. So being able to reset it, then looking at like what I mentioned before about the camera, feels like when you're in that self-surveillance, like understanding that it's like feels like a camera, and how to turn that off. Looking at where that narrative came from, maybe from like deep in your past as like a child, a teenager. Where did you start learning about this narrative? And then looking at like your identity. Obviously we've done it this client as well, because she's one of my one-to-one clients. We've done a lot of work, or we're starting to do a lot of work around the identity piece, so understanding your identity and what that means that's not tied to your body. Then going through your values, and then being able to look at that quiet moment of practice as well, like practicing understanding where this comes from, and understanding the narrative, and being able to disrupt that current system. So I'm going to build this out, because I haven't quite built it out yet, but it's going to be a tool that's going to be available with actual like steps and how to practice it. So basically, the judgmental voice that's coming up for other women is understanding this is the same voice that turns on you, okay? And first of all, we need to recognize that it's there. Then we need to be able to, like, I guess, understand where it's coming from, but then understand, what was I going to say? It's like, there's like a little sentence that I've got, I think, that I was just trying to think of. That, let me just, I've got it here somewhere. I'm just really looking through my notes now as well, because I was like, I had it somewhere. Like, Becky, be more organised. I was pretty organised before coming in here, then I just realised I've got loads of tabs open, and now I've lost where I had my little notes. Like I said, I am going to build this out, so with more tools and the worksheets to go with, because there's a lot of stuff that to go on, but it's I'll have to maybe get it to, I don't, because as well it's more on the side of it if you're having the issues as well. Yeah, I guess it like, yeah, so this is more based on like what you're feeling with your negative self-talk, but you can try and have like a bit, it's like a mantra with it. For example, like I am someone that is I am someone who's comfortable in my body, who admires other women's bodies, and that and respect that they're all different, or something along those lines. Like I said, I've got some sentences here that are more in for your internalized narrative. But thinking about what you could do like that, I am comfortable in your body, because I feel like you need to, because you're comparing, so you need to make sure that you are understanding your needs as well, and understanding that you are comfortable in your body. I am comfortable in my body. I admire other women's body and appreciate that we're all different, or something along those lines, something that helps you. But it takes practice, and I always say this with everything that you do. When it comes to this mindset work, using the tools repeatedly is what helps, even when it feels like it's not doing anything or not getting anywhere, because it will be. And if you stop, then it's not going to get any better. You'll just be back to square one. But if you continually practice the narratives, the challenging it, the tools that you've been using, it will break down. And there will become a moment when you start to recognize it and realize it, like, oh, I just realized I was in a room with a lot of women and I wasn't comparing myself. But you need to practice it. The more you practice, the more that neuro pathway will become stronger. Because I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again on the podcast. It's a repeat to learn. So when we have these neuro pathways in our mind, the habit patterns of the mind, the way that you've been talking about yourself, like they're deeply ingrained pathways. So if you think about when you're out hiking and you're walking and you see these pathways, and you can see like the well-trodden path, the path that's been walked over and over and over again. That path is representing your neuro pathway that this negative self-talk has been doing, okay? Every time you've been talking to yourself negatively, comparing yourself to others, judging other women, it's that same pathway over and over and over. So it's deeply ingrained. That doesn't mean that we can't change that or unwire it. Rewire it, it's probably the better word to use, but it means it does take time. So what you need to do now, and I'll just say as well, so when those pathways are deeply ingrained, they become habit patterns of the mind. Whereas when you're tired, when you're stressed, you're more susceptible to it, but your mind jumps back to those thought patterns because it's so used to doing it. So it does it automatically. And that's why when you're doing this work, if you have a day where you feel tired, you feel stressed, you feel overwhelmed, the negative thought patterns can come back in floods. Doesn't mean that what you're doing is not working. It just means that that pathway is still quite strong. So what we want to do is step onto the grass. We're creating a new pathway, but that grass might be quite long, and that's okay. Because the more you step onto the new pathway, the more you repeat the new thoughts to yourself, the old path will start to fade and the new path will start to become stronger. And so as you can imagine, like that other path is fading, that means it still might appear every now and again. You can still walk on it, but with practice, with repeat, that will fade and the new one will be so much stronger. So that's what I want you to think about when you're doing this work. Think about those pathways of your mind. Think about, this is why I need to practice it. This is why I need to repeat it, because I am stepping onto that new pathway. And if you don't, if you're like, okay, I'm giving up, it's not working for me, it means you're just going back onto the old pathway, and then you're letting the work that you've already done grow over. And that's not what we want. So do not give up on yourself. Do not think that all the little things that you're doing isn't working, but you just need to stick at repeating them. So I hope that helps. Like I said, I've got a bit of some new tools I want to add into the hub, so I'll be doing that shortly. For anyone that's been listening that isn't part of coaching, then and you're interested, for one-to-one coaching, you can apply as well as the misfits, and we'll see which is the best fit for you. Obviously you've got the group coaching. The next group will probably be in September now, and one-to-one is open for now, but it's always about making sure it's a good fit. So message me, check out the website, and I will speak to you very soon.